Quetzalcoatl, the plumed serpent, is rumored to possess the power to influence the destiny of whole societies. Some view him as a harbinger of vitality, enlightenment, and wealth, reputed to re-emerge on Earth in humanity's direst moments. But who exactly was Quetzalcoatl, and what has kept his memory alive for millennia? Join us as we delve into the enigmas of Quetzalcoatl's mythology. The narrative of the feathered serpent varies across the regions of Mesoamerica. Today, we'll explore the deity's beginnings within the formidable Toltec civilization from 900 to 1680 CE. The Toltec Empire stood as the most dominant force in Mesoamerica, with its epicenter in Tula, a city famed for its palaces adorned with gold and gems. The Toltecs were an exceedingly progressive civilization. They attributed their affluence to Quetzalcoatl, a legendary and ancient king whose reign marked the empire's golden era. As the tale goes, Quetzalcoatl was born to a mortal mother and the cloud serpent god, a demigod tragically orphaned at birth when his mother perished during childbirth. Friends of Quetzalcoatl's mother, in an act of compassion rather than cruelty, attempted to drown the infant to spare him a life of hardship, for being a demigod in those times could entail a life of destitution or enslavement. Miraculously, the infant Quetzalcoatl floated on the river's currents until a passerby discovered and delivered him to his grandparents, who nurtured him to become a priest in the city of Teotihuacan. As he matured, it became evident that Quetzalcoatl was no ordinary being. He possessed the uncanny ability to converse with fauna and insects, a talent he wielded to his advantage. His intellect and divine endowments allowed him to outmaneuver a cadre of malevolent rulers, eventually winning the hearts of the populace who beseeched him to rule as their monarch. This marked the inception of his reign, distinguished by a preference for peace and cultural development over warfare and subjugation. However, while Quetzalcoatl was preoccupied with constructing a prosperous and stable realm, a brewing divine conflict threatened to test his mettle. Ruling with benevolence, Quetzalcoatl ushered in a golden age for the Toltec, yet his half-brother, the god Tezcatlipoca, coveted his success, known as the Lord of Change through strife. Tezcatlipoca, resenting Quetzalcoatl's achievements, schemed to dethrone him, believing himself worthy to rule. One night, descending from the heavens on a rope crafted from spider silk and assuming the guise of a jaguar to traverse unnoticed, Tezcatlipoca infiltrated Quetzalcoatl's kingdom and lurked in the jungle, spying from the shadows as he observed two twins engaged in a ball game within the village, offspring of the rain god Tlaloc. Disguising himself as an elder, Tezcatlipoca complimented the twins' prowess, stoking their arrogance. He manipulated them into challenging the king to demonstrate their prowess. In ancient Mesoamerican culture, the ball game, resembling a precursor to modern basketball, was played on stone courts with vertical hoops and held profound religious significance, often symbolizing cosmic battles among the gods. Unaware of the divine deceit, Quetzalcoatl accepted the twins' challenge. On the day of the match, he appeared resplendent in a grand headdress, greeting his subjects and calling forth his challengers. The twins, under Tezcatlipoca's guidance, introduced themselves as princes from a distant land, proposing a wager with valuable stones and exquisite feathers at stake. The match commenced amidst TENSE energy, with Quetzalcoatl playing with remarkable skill despite the cumbersome headdress that impeded his movement. It was a closely contested game, but ultimately, Quetzalcoatl emerged triumphant. Standing before his people, he demanded the brothers honor their wager. The first brother handed Quetzalcoatl a handful of corn kernels, claiming they were his prized possessions. Incensed by the mockery, Quetzalcoatl struck the brother's hand, causing the kernels to scatter. The second brother then presented several green leaves as the promised beautiful feathers, which Quetzalcoatl also scornfully rejected. The brothers, having revealed their meager offerings, disclosed their true identities as sons of Tlaloc, the rain god, and delivered a dire message. Since the rain god's gifts held no value for Quetzalcoatl, they would be withheld from his people forever. With that, they departed, and as they had warned, Not a single drop of rain fell upon Quetzalcoatl's kingdom. Subsequently, Quetzalcoatl watched helplessly as his once verdant realm turned arid and brown, his people's laughter turning to cries of despair. The king realized the gravity of his error, having offended Tlaloc, and now his people were paying the price. Determined to make amends, Quetzalcoatl embarked on a journey to the temple of the rain god to beg for forgiveness and mercy. He prayed fervently for 4 days, and at last, a messenger arrived with news that Tlaloc had heard his prayers and would consider ending the drought. However, the god demanded a terrifying price: the sacrifice of a virgin. Shocked, Quetzalcoatl refused, as human sacrifice was not yet a part of Toltec practices, and he believed it would lead to the downfall of his kingdom. Unbeknownst to Quetzalcoatl, his refusal was part of Tezcatlipoca's broader scheme. Knowing his brother would never agree to the sacrifice, Tezcatlipoca spread rumors that it was Tlaloc's demand and manipulated followers to kidnap a rival king's daughter and sacrifice her, bringing rain back to the kingdom. This betrayal shifted the people's allegiance from Quetzalcoatl to Tezcatlipoca, as the rains returned and prosperity bloomed once more in the Toltec lands. The people's support for Quetzalcoatl waned, and instead they praised Tezcatlipoca, seeing him as the new bringer of life and fortune. For the first time, Tezcatlipoca experienced the thrill of kingship and was eager to secure his position permanently. Meanwhile, Quetzalcoatl was overwhelmed with grief upon learning of the sacrifice. He became a shadow of his former self, consumed by fasting and prayer, hoping to atone for the spiritual peril. He believed his people faced this calamity because his refusal to comply with the supposed divine will had indirectly caused such horror. While Quetzalcoatl was thus preoccupied, Tezcatlipoca was already plotting his next move. Knowing his brother still held the title of king and his influence persisted, Tezcatlipoca devised a deceptive plot to oust him completely. One day, a mysterious old man bearing a mirror appeared at Quetzalcoatl's door. The old man urged Quetzalcoatl to look into the mirror. Hoping to see a restored king, Quetzalcoatl instead saw the gruesome image of a dead rabbit, a symbol of cowardice and deceit in Toltec symbolism. Determined to reclaim his honor, Quetzalcoatl followed the old man, unaware that it was Tezcatlipoca in disguise. At a temple, dressed in regular attire and a green serpent mask, Quetzalcoatl prepared for what he believed would be his redemption. Tezcatlipoca showed Quetzalcoatl his reflection, and pleased with his kingly appearance, Quetzalcoatl called for a celebration. The men offered the king the finest of foods and drink, but while Quetzalcoatl accepted the food, he refused the wine, as it was against his vows of priesthood. Tezcatlipoca, in the guise of the old man, tricked Quetzalcoatl into celebrating with what he claimed was a medicinal drink to help him reclaim his divine power. However, it was actually mezcal, a strong spirit. As the alcohol took effect, Quetzalcoatl's judgment was clouded, and he lost sight of his vows of priestly chastity. He called for members of his household to join him, including his younger half-sister, Xochitl. Tezcatlipoca used this opportunity to strike a devastating blow on his half-brother, cementing the end of his kingship. Tezcatlipoca transformed himself into a priest and infiltrated the temple, where Xochitl was absorbed in deep prayer. With a mere breath, he caused her to fall into a deep sleep. His followers then transported the unconscious Xochitl back to Quetzalcoatl. Upon seeing her, Quetzalcoatl invited his sister to drink with him, but received no response, as she was still asleep. The old man lied, saying she was overwhelmed by the god's presence. Influenced by mezcal, Quetzalcoatl slept with his unconscious sister and then fell unconscious himself. When Quetzalcoatl and Xochitl awoke, they were horrified to realize what had transpired. News of the incident quickly spread throughout the city, inciting anger among the populace. Tezcatlipoca, observing the chaos, reveled in the success of his plan. The people, outraged, demanded that Quetzalcoatl leave the city and proposed Tezcatlipoca as their new leader. With a heavy heart, Quetzalcoatl gathered his few remaining loyal followers and sadly left the city of Tula, making way for Tezcatlipoca to rule in his stead. Driven by a hope to find redemption and a way to save his people from the destruction they seemed destined to follow, Quetzalcoatl's journey took him and his remaining loyal followers through diverse terrains across fields, rivers, and into the daunting shadows of mountains. When they reached a crossroads, one path leading over the plains and the other climbing into the mountains, Quetzalcoatl chose the more challenging route. This decision sparked an argument among his followers, tired from their long trek. They questioned the purpose of their hardships. However, a young warrior prince named Teoltec stood up and passionately defended Quetzalcoatl's choice, inspiring the group with his vision of seeking wisdom and understanding through sacrifice. Motivated by Teoltec's words, the group ascended the mountain, facing numerous dangers, rocks tumbling dangerously close and blinding snowstorms that obscured their vision. By the time they reached the peak, only Quetzalcoatl and a handful of others survived from the mountaineers. They saw the city of Cholula in the valley below, a place already steeped in history and now home to other Mesoamericans, including some Toltec, as Quetzalcoatl and his followers descended into the city. They found that news of the priest-king's wisdom and the tales of his journey had preceded them. The Colulans welcomed them eagerly, seeking guidance and leadership from Quetzalcoatl. Initially hesitant, Quetzalcoatl began to share his insights shaped by his trials. He spoke of true leadership, wisdom, kindness, and the power of creation over destruction. His teachings resonated with the people of Cholula, who embraced his vision and began to practice his teachings, leading the city to flourish. Much as Tula had under his earlier reign, Quetzalcoatl and his loyal followers spent nearly a decade in Cholula, where he led a contemplative life dedicated to meditation and prayer. He pondered ways to aid his former subjects in Tula, still grappling with the spiritual and societal fallout from his past errors. One evening, as Quetzalcoatl wandered in the wilderness, he experienced a vivid dream that struck him with fear. He saw a beautiful necklace made of corn kernels spinning in the void. Suddenly, the necklace broke apart, and the kernels scattered everywhere. Waking in a cold sweat, Quetzalcoatl was deeply moved by the imagery of corn, which had played a significant role in his past tribulations. Haunted by the dream, Quetzalcoatl confided in Teoltec, the warrior prince who had remained by his side. He expressed his fear that the vision foretold the destruction of the Toltec Empire. Teoltec, ever loyal, asked how they could prevent such a catastrophe. Quetzalcoatl admitted he did not know but was more determined than ever to find a way to save their people. In the days that followed, Quetzalcoatl meditated intensely on the vision, seeking guidance from the gods. Finally, he conceived of a plan he believed could preserve the Toltec, now numbering in the thousands. He gathered his followers and shared his interpretation of the dream. The scattered corn represented their civilization's imminent dispersal and ruin. While his followers were alarmed, Quetzalcoatl reassured them that he knew how to save them, but it required him to leave Cholula, despite protests from his people who had grown to love and respect him. Quetzalcoatl insisted that he must undertake this mission alone. The next day, Quetzalcoatl left the city to find Teoltec and a crowd at the gate. Teoltec pledged to follow him on his quest for wisdom, inspired by Quetzalcoatl's leadership, and led them into the wilderness seeking salvation. He believed their journey would take them through dense forests and remote villages, whose inhabitants often joined their caravan. The band grew into a large procession. Finally, they arrived at the base of a great volcano by the sea. Quetzalcoatl felt a profound connection to this place, so he instructed his followers to build a temple using the abundant wood from the surrounding forest. While they constructed the temple, Quetzalcoatl spent his time in solitary prayer, beseeching the gods for clarity and support in his upcoming ordeal. As the temple neared completion, Quetzalcoatl prepared for the most challenging part of his journey, the sacrifice he believed necessary to save his people. He donned a robe that shimmered like the plumes of a resplendent bird and a mask that flickered like the jeweled eyes of a serpent, embodying the divine power he hoped to invoke. Before the ceremony, Teoltec approached, sensing the turmoil within Quetzalcoatl. He threw himself at his leader's feet, begging him to reconsider. Quetzalcoatl, with a heavy heart, explained that he had to do this alone, assuring Teoltec that if the gods were merciful, he would return. They parted, and Quetzalcoatl ascended the altar and called upon the gods for strength. As he raised his hands to the sky, a lightning bolt struck the temple, igniting the wood. The blaze surrounded him, and although his followers cried out in alarm, Quetzalcoatl remained resolute, accepting the flames as the divine response to his sacrifice. As the fire consumed the temple, the onlookers were horrified, but a miraculous transformation occurred within the Inferno's heart. A supernat, Ural ball of light formed at the center of the pyre. It rose from the ashes and descended into the sky, becoming the morning star. To Teoltec and the others, this was a sign that Quetzalcoatl's spirit had reached the divine realm, confirming his promise of return. Quetzalcoatl awoke to find himself in Mictlan, the underworld ruled by the gods Mictlantecutli and Mictecacituatl, who governed the souls of the dead. Quetzalcoatl sought the bones of the dead to regenerate human life. As he explored the eerie landscape, a skeletal dog with backward-turned feet and hollow eye sockets appeared. Despite its unsettling appearance, the dog seemed to beckon Quetzalcoatl to follow. Reluctantly, he did, and this spectral creature led him through the many layers of the underworld. Together, they faced harrowing challenges, crossing paths made of rising snakes and rivers of blood. Each trial seemed insurmountable, yet each time Quetzalcoatl thought the dog had abandoned him, it awaited on the other side. Finally, they reached the gates of the underworld kingdom. Here, the dog left him to continue alone. Inside, Quetzalcoatl entered a dark temple filled with the eerie noises of the dead. He walked through a hall lined with torches, the ground littered with bones, the remnants of countless souls. Quetzalcoatl proceeded into a vast, dimly lit chamber at the heart of the underworld kingdom. There, seated upon thrones that seemed to morph and shift suddenly, were the Lord and Lady of the Dead, Mictlantecutli and Mictecacituatl. He, adorned with a headdress dressed in our feathers and a necklace of human eyes, and she, equally formidable, were the keepers of the bones. Quetzalcoatl sought an audience before them. Quetzalcoatl revealed his purpose to use the bones they guarded to create new life and thus prevent the despair consuming his people. The gods listened to his plea, but demanded proof of his devotion. They presented him with a large conch shell, instructing him to march around their thrones 4 times while playing a note on it. However, the shell had no holes. It was impossible to play. Undeterred, Quetzalcoatl remembered his childhood ability to communicate with animals and insects. He called upon the worms in the dirt of Mictlan to borrow a hole in the conch. Even with the hole, Quetzalcoatl faced another obstacle. As a spirit, he had no breath to produce sound. The underworld gods watched, amused by his plight, but Quetzalcoatl, resilient as ever, summoned bees from the darkness, directing them into the conch shell. Their buzzing produced a sound amplified by the shell, and try as they might, the gods could not help but be impressed. The gods conceded that Quetzalcoatl had completed the task, but warned him that as soon as he took the bones, the creatures of the underworld would attack. Birds would tear at him, seeking to reclaim the bones for Mictlan. Nevertheless, Quetzalcoatl resolved to proceed, driven by his commitment to his people's future. As he seized a bundle of bones and fled, the gods' minions, including spiders, worms, and spectral birds, pursued him. They set traps and assaulted him, scattering the bones he carried despite his efforts. The bones were shattered, rendering them seemingly useless. Desperate, Quetzalcoatl called out to the gods above for help. His pleas were answered. The gods of the heavens, moved by his dedication and suffering, lifted him and the broken bones from the pit of Mictlan. In the heavens, they awaited him, ready to assist in fulfilling his mission. Once lifted to the heavens, Quetzalcoatl was surrounded by deities who admired his determination and sacrifice. They placed the shattered bones in a celestial mill, grinding them into fine powder. This dust represented the potential for new life. Guided by the gods, Quetzalcoatl made a final personal sacrifice. He cut his own penis, allowing his blood to mix with the bone dust. This act imbued the mixture with the essence of life and divine spirit. His loyal canine companion from the underworld, who had also ascended, shaped the mixture into human forms using its tongue, adding fresh maize to complete the creation. As Quetzalcoatl watched, the figures began to stir, infused with his sacrifice's vitality and the maze's spiritual lessons. These new beings stood up, the first of a new race of humanity, tasked to thrive and carry the legacy of the Toltec forward with the blessings of the gods. During this profound moment, Quetzalcoatl himself transformed. His skin smoothed into scales, shimmering with iridescent colors, and his hair blossomed into vibrant plumes. He had become Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent god, embodying the virtues of wisdom, creation, and renewal. Feeling a final pull towards the earthly realm, Quetzalcoatl felt himself falling from the heavens. He landed gently on a beach, his new form complete with the head and feet of an eagle and cloaked in a robe made of serpents. As he explored his surroundings, some of his old followers approached, startled by his fierce new appearance. Recognizing their confusion and fear, Quetzalcoatl reassured them, "Do not be afraid, my friends. I was once your priest Quetzalcoatl. I have returned from the land of the dead, just as I promised." Hearing of this miraculous return, Mal rushed to the beach overjoyed and embraced Quetzalcoatl without hesitation. Inspired by Tamimel's acceptance, others believed as well and gathered around Quetzalcoatl, eager to learn from him once more. After imparting all he could, Quetzalcoatl removed his serpent robe and cast it into the sea, where it transformed into a raft. As he set sail on the raft, his followers watched him drift away, his figure blending with the horizon until he vanished. This final departure was not an end, but a promise of renewal and the enduring presence of Quetzalcoatl in the spirit of those who believed. As the legend of Quetzalcoatl's divine transformation and return spread throughout Mesoamerica, it reached the people in Tula, his former kingdom. Amazed by the tales of his sacrifice and rebirth as the feathered serpent, they turned their allegiance away from Tezcatlipoca, embracing Quetzalcoatl as their spiritual leader and deity. This shift in devotion filled Tezcatlipoca with jealousy and rage. Unable to accept his loss of power, Tezcatlipoca cunningly rallied the enemies of the Toltec, persuading them to unite against Tula. Tezcatlipoca formed a formidable army and launched a devastating siege on the city. The heart of the Toltec Empire was shattered, its structures destroyed, and its people scattered across the region. The historical reasons behind the decline of the Toltec civilization remain shrouded in mystery. We know that Tula fell around the mid-12th century, but the details of its downfall are lost to time. Despite the turmoil, the legacy of Quetzalcoatl in the Toltec culture profoundly influenced the people who followed, including the Aztecs. The legend of Quetzalcoatl has traversed the long and tumultuous history of ancient Mesoamerica. The telling of his stories has changed to suit the different times and cultures where they have been told. The Maya called him Kukulkan, and the Kich people of the Itzá state in the northern Yucatan Peninsula are closely associated with the descent of Kukulkan at Chichen Itzá during the equinox, where the shadow forms a long body of a snake down the stairs of the famous temple. Today, Quetzalcoatl remains a powerful emblem of transformation and hope in Mexican culture. His story resonates with themes of redemption and the possibility of renewal, even in the darkest times. Quetzalcoatl's legendary stature as a giant feathered serpent inspired the naming of a dinosaur species in the same name. You might have seen this creature featured in the film Jurassic World, Dominion, or in video games. Quetzalcoatl's influence stretches into popular series like Final Fantasy, where he appears as a powerful summonable creature, known for his electrical attacks and commanding presence. Quetzalcoatl remained a significant figure even after the Spanish conquered the New World. Friar Diego Duran proposed that Quetzalcoatl might have been the Apostle Thomas. According to Duran, the saint had left the Roman Empire after the death of Christ, and his travels across the sea could explain the similarities between Aztec religion and Christianity. This connection to Europe was embraced by 17th-century Mexican nationalists, as it suggested that their cultural heritage predated Spanish influence. Quetzalcoatl symbolized renewal and creativity, and a bridge between past and future civilizations in Mesoamerica. His teachings and his spirit inspired many, fostering a resilience that would shape the spiritual landscape of the region for centuries to come. It reminds us that from destruction can come creation, and from despair can rise hope.